All the disaster necessities you'll ever need in one place. Do you know all the disaster necessities you and your family would require in a moment of life-changing crisis? Should mandatory evacuations occur, do you know what would be the most important things to bring along? For every 10 people who are confronted with disaster situations, 9 of them are nowhere near as prepared as they could be. That prompted Absolute Rights to offer their latest special report, meant to provide the skills and knowledge necessary for survival in a variety of circumstances. Get Out of Dodge and its supplemental workbook will give you a practical way to internalize your emergency preparedness planning. The biggest deterrent to satisfactory emergency management plans is complacency. It's dangerous to have a state of mind that insists everything will be okay. Hazards from both natural and man-made disasters happen more frequently than people think, but it's the unprepared that run the risk of death with each passing hurricane, riot, or wildfire. Developing countries are certainly more vulnerable to major emergencies, since they are less prepared to withstand and recover from certain hazards. That gives countries like America a mentality that, even if something bad were to happen, things would be fine and we'd come out of it unscathed. In reality, rich and powerful countries face the same response and preparation challenges, and are actually more exposed due to the expense of property damages. In fact, 2011 was the most expensive year in terms of disaster losses in history, mostly because of the accumulation of catastrophes affecting countries with developed infrastructures and seemingly adequate response plans. That fact comes from a soon-to-be-launched natural disaster review conducted by the Brookings Institution, the public policy research outfit. The full review launch happens on March 28th, but the executive summary includes the notion that developed countries were particularly hard hit by disasters in 2011, as evidenced by the floods in Australia, earthquakes in New Zealand, and earthquake tsunami in Japan, and a series of disasters in the United States. Storms and fires raged through the American landscape in 2011, and post-disaster recovery in some places is still ongoing. The review recommended disaster plans be adjusted to a new, dynamic normalcy, based on climate change patterns and predictions. What was, at one time, a once-in-a-century disaster, now leans closer to being a once-in-a-generation disaster. It also mentioned the post-tsunami Fukushima nuclear incident in Japan, which raised questions about the preparedness for technological and industrial accidents, especially when they are caused by natural hazards, like a hurricane or earthquake. Most importantly, the review found that examples from last year's disaster in the rich world show that investments in disaster risk reduction and preparedness pay off and are cheaper than post-disaster reconstruction. If that's not reason enough to start thinking about catastrophe preparedness, the wide-ranging plans for survival included in Get Out of Dodge will be. Nowhere else will you find such a comprehensive collection of survival skills, kit supply recommendations, communication plans, evacuation methods, personal protection, and situational awareness are all made available to any reader of the special report. It's a simple fact that the rate of survival increases and decreases based on the level of preparedness. By merely reading this article, you've already begun thinking about your own circumstances and the procedures you would take should the unthinkable happen. There's a certain amount of personal responsibility that every human being needs to take to help the world become a more prepared place. Every disaster requires people to take stock of their belongings and determine what's most valuable. If you've already anticipated what those things are, it's that much easier. The disaster necessities that you and your loved ones can't live without will only be available if you think ahead and prepare. Do so with Get Out of Dodge available today at www.bugoutReport.com.